Hi, I'm Brittany Jill. Today we're heading to the Big Sky state of Montana. If you didn't know, Montana is home to a variety of wild game. They have moose, antelope, mule deer, elk, bighorn sheep, grizzlies. Did I miss any? Oh yeah, whitetails. This is Destination Whitetail.
Montana is aptly nicknamed Big Sky Country for obvious reasons. This vast state is our fourth largest and slightly larger than Japan. It is split into eastern and western regions by the Continental Divide, which helps separate the Great Plains of the east from the mountainous country of the west. Parks such as Glacier National and Yellowstone offer outdoor lovers the full gamut of recreation and adventure. Perhaps this is why another state motto is the last great place. But for deer hunters, the major draw isn't found by looking up. You need to venture down into the river bottoms. These wooded fingers wander through the cropland, offering supreme habitat for whitetails especially. This is simply some of the best whitetail country you'll find in the lower 48. Not surprisingly, it has drawn the Destination Whitetail crew on a few trips we'd like to share with you today. The first brings us to the southwestern range, just north of Bozeman, where bow hunting is the only order of the day.
You never know what to expect when you hunt out west. You know, our airplane got in a little bit later than expected. We didn't get to Montana whitetails in time to hunt last night, but we did get a chance to drive around. Tons of whitetails are out in the alfalfa field. It's early October. You know, we saw antelope, we saw mule deer. So day two, we get out to the stand and it is just pristine quiet. There's about 4 inches of snow on the ground and you're just expecting stuff to start moving, but it's really, really quiet. And boom, they're there, there's whitetails. And nothing big, we saw a couple fawns and a doe. You know, then we started seeing more deer and pretty soon I saw a smaller buck and then we saw a pretty decent little buck coming towards us. I guessed he was probably a 2-year-old in relatively shorter times, but he's a nice, respectable deer for this area.
The area Brad is referring to is Region 3, which offers some of the finest trophy big game hunting in Montana. He's hunting with Montana Whitetails, Inc., which leases some 20,000 acres of property.
My brother and I come out here about 8 years ago, and we come out to check this place out. There's a guy interested in selling the business, Montana Whitetails, so we come out. And from the moment we touched down in Bozeman off the plane, we're like, man, this is pretty spectacular. You know, the views, the area in itself, and river bottom, you know, that we're hunting here, Shields River Valley. It actually has some of, as far as whitetail habitat goes, some of the best in the country. Our primary focus is whitetails, but we also offer mule deer hunting, elk hunting, moose if you're lucky enough to draw a tag, Shire's moose, antelope, you know, as well.
Coming up, Brad's bow hunt continues, and he takes a side trip to visit a ranch with some rich ties to the Old West when Destination Whitetail returns. Destination Whitetail is brought to you by Browning Trail Cameras, by Thompson Center, America's master gunmaker, by Analogics, protect your herd with the power of science, by Sever Broadheads, straight through it, Alps Outdoors, exceed your expectations, and by Hornady, accurate, deadly, dependable. Welcome back to Destination Whitetail. Brad Rux is on a bow hunt with Montana Whitetails Inc., but he's finding out there are other attractions here. One of the ranches is run by direct descendants of famed Old West gunfighter Doc Holliday.
My family is related to Doc Holliday. We've been told that for at least 3 generations back. He came from Georgia, and we can trace our Holliday family back to the same area where Doc Holliday came from, but as far as we know, we have no documented proof. Oh, I just love this ranch. I can't imagine ever doing anything different than ranching. It's the land. It's the land and the lifestyle. And this is how I wanted to raise my kids, and hopefully I can hang on to it enough to get the grandkids raised here.
And it seems that shooting runs in the Holliday family, as Cora's mother and father won medals in many shooting competitions.
I remember they had pistol matches, and we went all over the state, I can remember, and used to go every weekend. When I was little, there was very few deer, no elk. You never saw moose. There was very little wildlife here. And now there's elk all the time, and there's deer everywhere. We have both mule deer and whitetail, and you see a lot of bears, you see moose. So there's a lot more wildlife now than there was then.
Brad had a chance to see that firsthand as he hunted the property that afternoon and evening. The whitetails were grouped up in the field near the tree he was in, but only does came into bow range. Nonetheless, he was grateful to hunt such a beautiful spot.
You know, so many times everybody thinks the kill or the harvest is what it's all about. And for me, it's about being out in nature.
The next morning found him in the river bottom, in a spot that was full of potential. Once again, the action was slow to start.
And all of a sudden the woods kind of exploded. There was deer activity everywhere. You know, saw a few little deer, or actually one decent buck that was in the brush, just never could get a good look at him. And all of a sudden, here comes a buck. He was on the cameraman's side. Sure, he fell right there. What a pretty Montana deer. He's not one of the biggest ones we've seen here, but he is a good, respectable deer from Montana. I'm excited. We're gonna shoot a doe. She's coming across the river. He goes, "Hey, there's a pretty good buck over there." I was like, "How big is he?" "I think he's a shooter." And then he's walking across the river. Comes right up and he dilly-dagged over there. Book. It is coated. He's got a big old hole in him. Crossed the creek, put on a show for us. Made a good shot, a little close to the shoulder. But
yeah, he didn't go very far at all.
No, he didn't go very far at all. It's such an experience out here. I mean, this is, I'm pretty sure he's a 3-year-old. And he's probably a smaller side on the 3-year-old for your 3-year-olds. Because there's a lot of them. He's got really good mass.
You know, especially for a 2.5-year-old. I don't know if he'd have that much mass.
Yeah.
Congratulations,
Hey, man,
Brad.
thanks a lot.
Awesome.
Coming up, our trip through Montana continues as we head north to Great Falls, where Mark Kaiser is on the trail of both whitetails and mule deer.
If I can get a big whitetail going, you know, it's hard to pass them up. But in the same vein, if I see a nice muley, we're gonna also put a stalk on that. We are gonna have a great hunt here in the Big Sky country.
The Eliminator 3 laser scope from Burris is an innovative and effective hunting rifle scope. combining outstanding optics, laser range finding, and trajectory compensation for the exact ammunition you choose to hunt with.
Welcome back to Big Sky Country, where we're joining Mark Kaiser on a spot and stalk adventure in the wide open range near Great Falls.
That just reinforced what's going on. That buck down there, decent buck, not a shooter yet, was with those does chasing hard, and then he kept going. So these bucks are just moving, and just got to try and find one and get in front of them.
Man, we're seeing a lot of deer on this hunt. I mean, more deer than a lot of people see during a season. We've seen already today. But, well, those big mature bucks at this point of the rut are taking does off and away. They don't want to be necessarily in the masses right now. Now they're going to come back in to get another doe. But when will they come back? Well, that's the million-dollar question. We're right on top of those mule deer, but they're just not quite what we're looking for. There's a couple bucks in here. In fact, I think there's 3 or more bucks. We're still hoping for a big whitetail, but it looks like the mule deer have taken over the country. Let's go try another spot. Got about an hour left during the day. We're seeing incredible numbers of deer. Still, it's the middle of the rut. Every other doe is coming into heat, so these bucks, they're not just hanging with one group of does, they're just cruising in between them. Mule deer and whitetail. So we got a lot of time to keep shopping for a good buck. You really wouldn't think it'd be a challenge to find a shooter buck, but with the rut in full bore mode, and big bucks taking a hot doe away to breed every few minutes, it is a challenge. Out west, there's a thing called Chinook winds. This morning, we're getting that very effect. The winds are gonna pick up and they're probably gonna howl. That's gonna make it a little more challenging because the deer, well, they're gonna be on edge. We're seeing that already. They're just a little flighty. That buck allowed me to crawl up there. He had a hot doe. I just couldn't get enough elevation trying to aggressively crawl up on that buck. And he just had a little bit too much. Just didn't want to stay there. That's hunting. If this place looks familiar, it's because it is. We were here 2 days ago. And the wind's just the same. But why are we back in a spot we've already looked in a few days ago? It's the rut. These deer can come into here overnight and fill up an area that was vacant 2 or 3 days ago. But once again, this wind is making it challenging to spot these deer. They're just tucking in and out. Yeah. You know, you manage a lot of land out west here for both whitetails and mule deer. What do you see as the biggest challenge? Because I know you're trying to get that older, mature age class of deer here.
I think the biggest challenge is number one, letting them grow up. Find a cull buck, an old deer that's a big, maybe a big fork horn or a 3-point, and so we manage them that way. The other thing we do is predators. Predator control is an utmost. You got to take care of your predators because they hammer these deer, even the big old bucks. And then also we have other things like mountain lions and other big predators up here that you really got to manage if you're going to have the deer numbers. So basically, take care of letting them get a little bit older, keep your predators down, and you'll have better mule deer numbers, and whitetails too.
There you go.
Coming up, Dan Schmidt joins Chad on a different hunt in the same area. Destination Whitetail is brought to you by Decked. Work smarter, play harder. Scent Killer Gold with Hunt Dry Plus technology. Apply it, dry it, and go hunt. By 10-Point Crossbow Technologies, there is no substitute. Get armed and deadly with Easton FMJ arrows. By Sig Sauer Electro Optics, never settle. And by Matthews Archery.
Muzzle-loading rifles are light years ahead of where they were 10, 15 years ago. These dogs will hunt, and they'll hunt at long range. They've got the accuracy to make lethal shots on whitetails out to 200 yards and beyond. But you've got to remember, this is still a relatively slow-moving bullet, and that means there's going to be a lot of arc. So you have to compensate for that trajectory. And to do that, you might use a range-finding scope, a ballistic compensating scope with hash marks, or if you're using a traditional reticle, you're going to have to know where to hold over. But you need to do your groundwork before you go out in the field. You need to know where your gun's going to hit at 100 yards, 125, 150, and 200 if you're going to try to make shots at those ranges. Personally, I consider muzzleloader hunting a short distance game. I like to be within 100 yards, but it's nice to know that if I've got a big buck standing out there at 125, 150, maybe even 200 yards, I've got a gun that can get the job done.
Our Montana adventure continues with a rifle hunt in the same region near Great Falls. Dan Schmidt, like Mark, is on a hunt with the assistance of Chad Shearer.
In Montana, we're blessed that our rifle season is during the rut. That can be good, that can be bad. The good thing is you see bucks you've never seen before. The bad thing is these bucks will travel.
Chad, we got in here, you know, it's November 4th. Tell me about the weather, how this weather has been affecting not only the mule deer, but the whitetails in general in this area.
You know, I tell you, one thing that we see is when we get the weather socked in on these mule deer, they'll brush up, they'll hunker down, they'll get sometimes in bigger groups, and it can be a little more challenging to sneak in because you have so many eyeballs on them. Damn, just that draw this morning, all those deer were in, that nice bucks up in here. Everything we're seeing right now is bedded. So I say let's sneak up in here, see if we can get in close enough and see if we can get a shot.
Sounds good, let's do it. That's him right there.
Yes! Oh yeah. Going down. Blood pumping. Going down, baby. Good shot. Yes! Yeah. He's dropping right down there in that brush.
Here, I'm gonna give you the gun here. Hang on a second.
I knew what this gun would do. 263 yards.
Oh my gosh.
I've ranged this area several times over the years, and I know what this draw is. You smoked him.
Oh, I can't.
Big Montana mule deer. That's your first buck, isn't it?
My first mule deer buck.
Well, Dan, it's a little colder. You threw that stocking cap on.
You know, yeah, you know, it's 21 degrees out here. I'm from Wisconsin, but you know, you guys dish up some good weather here in Montana.
Your buck is laying up there. Let's walk up this hill and grab it.
I don't know.
He's excited. This is an awesome buck.
This is an
He's
incredible
got good
deer.
mass. He's got big brow tines.
Holy mackerel. Chad, check out this buck. Oh my goodness.
Wow, look at him. That is a dandy Montana mule deer. Look at the forks on him. Huge back forks. He's got palmated.
He's got brow tines. I mean, never shot a mule deer. And I said, if my first one could have brow tines, that's asking for a lot.
It's a 5x6. Got a kicker right here. This is a dandy.
Oh my gosh, I just feel so blessed. I'm still shaking.
You want to hunt Montana, there's great opportunities all over. There's over 8 million acres of public land you can hunt. So keep that in mind. If you're going to hunt out west, you need to do your planning, because most places you can't get your license over the counter.